Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I thought I would chat to you guys about the 5 books I would save. What would I save these books from? I have no idea. A burning house. I'd save the cat first though, and the books would probably be destroyed by then. I don't know what I'm saving them from. This came about. I know there's a few videos going about with this right now, sort of like the 10 books that you would save. And it's actually not why I want to do this video. This video came about from, I was sitting at lunch at work a few weeks ago, and one of my colleagues, like, we were all just sitting, playing on our phones, reading our books, whatever we were doing, all being fairly quiet, and we had a TV on in the background. And there was an ad about wills that none of us actually clocked, bar one colleague, who then, bless her, she's only about 22, 23, I think. She then just burst out with, how do you write a will? When do you write a will? We're all very bewildered at this point, going, where is this coming from? I don't know. Google it. And thus followed other questions such as, what happens if you die without a will? Like, who do your belongings go to? At which point we're all like, well, my reply was, I don't know, probably my next of kin, I guess. I mean, other than the books, there's not much for them to give. Not much to give them, I'm afraid. Which then led on to, okay, what happens if something happens and you're only allowed to save 5 books? What ones do you save? And so I was like, oh, well, I'd save this one first. And, oh, but what about that one? I could maybe get, And then I kept thinking, and it got harder and harder and harder. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to put some proper thought into this and make a video about it. So that was my very long, rambly introduction into, these are the 5 books that I would save if I had no other choice and I was after the cat, etc., etc. But if I were only allowed to choose 5 books, five books from my collection, these are the 5 I would choose. These 5. And with any luck, I'll get a decent screenshot from there for the thumbnail. But yeah, if you were quick, or I have successfully got a thumbnail from that, you'll notice there's 6 books in this pile, and that is because 2 of them are together. They come together. They have always been together, and they will always remain together. Yeah. So shall we go through it? The 5 books that, in theory, given time, I would save. So I do need to caveat this. If I were ever in a rush and I were only allowed to pick a couple of books, like due to luggage space or whatever, I can't guarantee it would be these ones. I think 3 of them, there might be like some that would definitely, because they're the ones I initially went for, but a couple of them, like, I don't know. I don't know what instinctually I would do, because I didn't think about this instinctually. It's hard. You can't plan something instinctually. So yeah, if given time to think about it, I were only allowed to choose 5 books from my collection, these are the ones I would choose. So we're going to go in size order, just because that's the way I've got them piled up. So the first one I would save would be Little Women. I've had this particular copy, I think, since I was a teenager, at the very least early 20s. It's very well read. It's all orangey and faded. The back cover is actually torn. I have no idea what happened there. I honestly could not tell you how that happened. But yeah, I have read this book so many times. I usually read it every year at Christmas. Sometimes I'll skip a year, but usually like no more than a year. I've read this countless times. I will continue to read this countless times. This is a story that just touches my heart, and I know I've spoken about this in a previous video. It is a story that will make you cry. I currently actually have all 4 of them, but the first one, Little Women, is the one that I would definitely save. And I guess this possibly just represents my love of some classics. Like, I don't read a lot of classics, but I do read some, and the ones that I do read and the ones that I've enjoyed, I do read again. So this sort of like represents those. Okay. The next one that I would save is, I'm not entirely sure if I've ever spoken about this book on the channel yet. Um, I've not spoken a lot about non-fiction on this channel, but this is definitely my favourite non-fiction book, and that is How I Killed Pluto and Why It Had It Coming. So I picked this up, oh gosh, when did I go to New York? I picked this up a few years ago, like 5-6 years ago now, when I was in New York. Visiting a friend, I went to the American Museum of Natural History, I think is what it's called. I did all the things. I loved that museum. And yeah, when I was browsing the gift shop, naturally I gravitate towards what are the books. I mean, like, my degree is in science. It's actually in animal biology, so natural history is right down my alley. And I picked this one, and I saw this one, and the title just immediately grabbed me. It just immediately grabbed me. And then I read the back, and I knew I had to buy this book. And I got home and I read it in a couple of days, and I have read it twice since. I love this book. It's brilliant. This is a brilliant representation of how personal science is. So, sorry, I haven't actually told you what it is about. Mike Brown, the author, is the astronomer that discovered Eris, which at the time of discovery was thought to be a 10th planet in our solar system. Because those of us of a certain age, basically those of, I'd say roughly those of us who are in sort of like our late 20s, early 30s and older, we were all taught that there were 9 planets in our solar system. And then Mike Brown came along and discovered Eris, and suddenly we only had 8 planets in our solar system because Pluto got demoted. Well, this is a story of basically Mike's career up until he found Eris and the fallout of that. And it just shows, I mean, he was devastated. He never intended to kick Pluto out of the club. You know, he wanted to find a planet, not remove one. But yeah, this shows how personal science is. I mean, I know we often go on about how science has to be impersonal. You shouldn't be biased, and you shouldn't be this, and you shouldn't be too. And yeah, you should definitely avoid bias, and it should be impersonal in the reporting and the studying. But if you are not personally invested in what you're studying and so passionate about what you're studying, you shouldn't be studying it. So yeah, I love that this shows just that personal human side of science, and it is written in it's just such an accessible read. He's a very engaging author. I find him very witty at times, and it is told in first person. It is autobiographical. But I highly recommend reading this if you have any interest in astronomy or just science in general. This is a brilliant read if you can get your hands on it. Okay, now the next one will come as absolutely no surprise to anybody that she is on this list, but of course Robin Hobb had to be one of the books I saved, right? So the one I would save is my limited edition, collector's edition, I think, copy of Assassin's Apprentice. Harper Voyager, years ago. When was this particular edition published? Doesn't tell me. Okay, not telling me when this particular edition was published, but I want to say it was like 10 plus years ago. It was a while ago. For one of their anniversaries, Harper Voyager published a range of various titles in these limited edition covers. I have regrets. I only bought this one. I know they did Magician by Raymond Feist, which was the other one I really wanted to get my hands on, and I couldn't justify the price at the time because I was a lowly I think I was a scientist at the time, but I was still a very low paid scientist. Money was tight, so you go with the important ones, right? But yeah, this, like, do I need to explain why Robin Hobb is on this list? She's my queen, and it's Night Eyes. It's a cover with Night Eyes, guys. This copy is also signed, so yeah, it's on here because it represents my love of fantasy and specifically my love of Robin Hobb. Cool. And now the next one, so it feels, I don't know, cheeky. almost wrong to have this on the list because I've not read this book yet. I've not even read the first one. This is a book too, and I've not even read the first one. But the author is dead. I think it's a first edition. I'm not 100% certain. If it's not a first edition, it's a very early edition of this book. It is the hardback. And it's signed. And that is Anne Mccaffrey's Freedom's Choice. I do own Freedom's Landing, which is the prequel to this one. I do intend to read them relatively soon, I think. Possibly within the coming year. Like, they're on my radar. They're starting to niggle, being like, I might want to read these pretty soon. Anne McCaffrey is an author that my mum has recommended to me over and over and over again. I have read some of her works. I've had generally mixed feelings about her. For the most part, I've really enjoyed what I've read, but I'm still a little sour about Dragonflight, which was the very first one I read, and I really, really enjoyed it right up until the end, and she didn't stick the landing quite well, and I know that among Anne McCaffrey fans that is a very unpopular opinion, but it's my opinion and I'm sticking to it. But like I said, this one is signed. I think it's a first edition. It's very shiny here, sorry. And yeah, this sort of like, I feel like this book represents the older fantasy that I love. There's so much love out there, particularly with on BookTube, or at least the BookTube that the YouTube algorithm shows me. There is so much love out there for modern fantasy that I feel like there's so much classic fantasy that we don't talk enough about, and I really want to get myself to a place where I can start talking more about a lot of these older fantasies that I personally love, because it's just written in such a way that is just, yeah, love it. But yeah, so this represents my love of older fantasy, but also that combined love of certain books that I have with my mum. And just Anne McCaffrey, just whenever I see her on my shelf, I just always think of my mum. So how can I not include her on this list? How can she not be one of the books I would save? And yet, the last on this list, there are two very, very, very large volume chunky books. And I would save these purely for sentimental reasons. They are a little outdated. I'm sure a lot of the information within them has been updated since. But these are my Reader's Digest Great Illustrated Dictionaries. And I love these books so, so much. So I would save these because these were my grandma's books. My grandma, so I'm going to put one of them down because they're quite heavy. They're pretty heavy. But yeah, so my mum was a single mum and she was brilliant. She still is brilliant. What am I saying? Past tense. There's no past tense about my mum. She's just as amazing as she'll always be. But my grandparents did look after us after school quite a bit. And anytime we were over and like I was doing homework or something, especially if I struggled with my spelling, which I have always struggled with my spelling, my grandma would tell me to go look up the dictionary, and I have memories of just spending like hours. Oh, I forgot I put that there. That was my grandma. This was from her funeral. Oh, okay. Did not expect that there. Kind of forgot I put that there. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, I can remember spending just hours either in my grandma's living room or on the landing at the top of the stairs, because there was a bookcase at the top of the stairs where these lived, just poring over these, and they're just, I can show you some of the illustrations. Right, they are just beautiful, beautiful copies. And they're just, yeah, they're huge sentimental value to me. I know in this day and age it's so much easier, and I do it myself, to just Google how to spell something or what it means with our phones at the tip of our fingers, but I just think there's just something so wonderful and satisfying about looking it up and knowing where to look, because sometimes I don't know where to look to find how to spell something. I vaguely remember once in primary school, like really young primary school, the word any, You know, that little prefix that follows like anything or any time. I can't spell it. I was like, how do you spell that? I remember my teacher telling me, go look it up in the dictionary. And so I was like, okay, any. Now, the English language being what it is, you know, they frequently told us to sound it out. So it'd be any. Well, that kind of sounds like elephant, and they start with an E. So any must start with an E, so I'm literally trawling through the E's, like, I don't know about this. So, yeah, this book sort of like reminded me sometimes that it's nice to look things up. And sometimes it works out. But, yeah, I got a bit more sentimental than I thought it was going to be. But, yeah, these are the books. So technically there's 6 on this list, but I include both copies of my dictionaries as one copy because they are up here. But yeah, these are the books that, if given time to think about, which I gave myself, these are the books that I would save that either mean a lot, like so much to me that I will never part with them, or represent my collection. Yeah, so that's it. That's all I got for you today. Let me know in the comments, what books would you guys save? What books, did they have any special stories to you, or yeah. And I will see you guys in the next video.